Thank you.
Okay. Ji, namaskar.
So, namaskar to everybody over here.
Through Mr. Vimal Vaklu, we got connected with Mr. Surinder Kaul, the president of the Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora. Utpal Kaul ji, the international coordinator. Thousands and lakhs of Kashmiri Pandits all over the world, all in unison, voicing their and echoing their sentiments towards, the back old, lovely, Gar Firdaus, Zameen Asto, that is that is the kind of, phrase that we use for Kashmir. When we talk about Kashmir, that if there is heaven on earth, it is to be Kashmir. It has been Kashmir, and it should be Kashmir once again. Ajay Chaudhary ji from Europe, Germany, Mr. Kashki Akhun ji, one of the activists. So we've got a very strong panel of people who would be speaking on Kashmir flies. Now this is just a tongue twister, which we have derived from that famous movie which was released, last year, which was based on the issues around Kashmir, known as Kashmir Files, and Amritkal shall be bereft of its soul and purpose. Vimal Vaklu would probably understand what I mean. If we do not raise the issue of bringing back normalcy to Kashmir and making Kashmir go back to the heydays when it was known as the heaven on earth, and very soon, under the current dispensation and the kind of developments that have taken place over the last 3-4 years, 5-7 years, with the abrogation of Article 370 and other initiatives, we will be very surely going back to those old days. And people like Mr. A. Chaudhary, Mr. Utpal Kaul, Vimal Vaklu, Kashki Akhun, and many others, the Kashmiri Pandit brethren and the Indians all over the world would be happy beyond boundaries if we can relive those moments that personify or that basically reflect the soul of Kashmir. Today, the discussion will be revolving around Kashmir's history in some parts, the present situation, and what is the future going forward in the next 25 years. Because what we've seen in the last 100-odd years, and probably more, if we talk about the post-independence era, the past 75 years, the mistakes made, the kind of issues with respect to dealing with the partition and all that. And finally, today we are in a stage where we are going back to the old days of Kashmir. In the next 25 years, what should be expected of Indians and the government of India and the global, leaders to ensure that Kashmir is something which is a pearl in basically the entire world's landscape, which we desire and which deserve, and India richly deserves that. I will start with Mr. Vimal Vaklu, because Mr. Vimal Vaklu has been a patron with us. Vakluji, former CMD TCIL, your opinion on Kashmir, its history, opening remarks, but keep in mind 95% Muslims in Kashmir when the partition was happening, or probably in the 1940s. The partition happened on the lines of religion. So why is Pakistan wrong in claiming, kind of their authority over Kashmir? And what went wrong when the letter of accession was hurriedly signed by Hari Singh? Those are issues which you need to throw a light upon when we start with the opening remarks itself. Over to you, Vimal Vaklu.
Thank you, Amitji. Actually, there are a lot of misconceptions about Kashmir, and what you just mentioned is one of them. At the time of independence, it's true that the country was partitioned based on religion. But at the same time, it did not apply to the princely states of India. They were given the option, the princes or the kings, so-called, they had the options to join India, Pakistan, or remain independent. These were three options given to them. So since Kashmir also was a princely state under Sri Hari Singh, who of course was a patriot, who was somebody who really contributed well towards ensuring that the Britishers were on the receiving end, including the famous Roundtable Conference in London, where he spoke and paid a price for it in 1930 in form of riots in Kashmir, which were engineered by the Britishers and supported by some of the so-called leaders of India. That was one part. And to add to that, the second part is that despite all this, and despite differences of Sri Hari Singh with Pandit Nehru, still in July 47, he was one of the first princes who offered to accede to India. But it was rejected by Mr. Nehru on the ground that we'll decide through the will of people. I don't know what that really meant, despite the understanding having been that it'll be the decision of the princely state, head of the princely state, a king or whosoever it is. So that is where our leaders messed up, and that's why we are paying a price for it. And, of course, I don't want to go back to the history of Kashmir, which has been a history of torture and mayhem for almost 1,000 years. Maybe Mr. Utpal Kaul will further work on that. But my point is that in 1929 or so, till Britishers went against Hari Singh, things were relatively peaceful. There was complete peace in the state. And it was only after the Britishers wanted to torture Hari Singh and get concessions in number of ways, including Gilgit-Baltistan and other things, that they started creating trouble in Kashmir. And that is how people were you can say they revolted against the king at that particular time, the Maharaja of Kashmir. So, and after that, after independence, it was trouble specifically for us in 1930 also. The Kashmiri Pandits suffered a lot because they became the butt of, torture of all these so-called revolutionaries. And we suffered a lot. But after 47, it became still worse. To begin with, Sheikh Abdullah, who was given the charge by, Mr. Nehru, openly declared that I'll ensure that till now, the Muslims have been the servants of Kashmiri Pandits. Now Kashmiri Pandit women will become the servants of Kashmiri Muslims. He openly declared this, and he had no shame about it. And then the first thing he did was passing of the, Land Reform Act, which was again practically based on religion. All people who had agricultural land, most of them were Kashmiri Pandits, of course. They all were told that it will be land to tillers.
Waklusa, post-independence, we'll carry forward our discussion. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Utpalji, Mr. Utpal Kaul, the international coordinator for the Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora. Who better than you? Somebody who also probably catalyzed the making of that, famed movie, politically famed movie called Kashmir Files, by Mr. Vivek Agnihotri, the person from the Mumbai film industry. Now, Utpalji, Paklurji had hinted upon you being somebody who could throw some light upon the historical significance or the historical chronology of events that catapulted into the situation that we are in today, even now. I mean, what led to this entire imbroglio from the Shankaracharya times to, my knowledge is zero on this, from the Shankaracharya times to almost the Muslim leaders, the Mughal emperors, the marauders, the destroyers, the rapists, the marauders of temples, to Ranjit Singh, to Hari Singh. I mean, this part of the history, the chronology of events could you take us through this entire thing in the next 3-4 minutes, please?
I had promised. Thank you very much for inviting us for this very important discussion and debate. Basically, we are all here activists who are involved in Kashmir for last 35 years at least. I requested Ajay Chaudhary to be for some time here because maybe he may leave early. If we can ask Ajay Chaudhary ji to come first, then I can give try to give wonderful chronological account of, because this is my subject also. So I can, if you allow, I think Ajay Chaudhary ji come
Ajay
before
ji,
me.
over to you. Ajay Chaudhary ji, thank you, Utpal ji, because you had already informed me. Thank you so much, Ajay ji. Opening remarks from your side, sir.
Ji, namaste. Thank you very much for taking up this vital subject, which is still hidden after 35 years. After 35 years, this trauma and tragedy and genocide in Kashmir. Just 2 minutes, I wish to go into the background. When this thing happened in 89, the government at that time was Mandal-oriented Janata Dal government. And our leaders, community leaders, and maybe also the political hierarchy at that time decided that we should call ourselves as Kashmiri Pandits. Of course, we are Kashmiri Pandits, but it was not a good decision. Maybe Utpalji and Wakhluji will throw more light on this. I have been speaking on every forum that we should have called ourselves as Kashmiri Hindus simply, so as to integrate more in the caste-based Indian society. That was, I think, a mistake. And after 33 years, that is the reason our awareness we communicated to the international media and even to the Indian masses. And this genocide remained almost hidden. Of course, people like Utpalji, Wakhluji, Kashiji, we were all working hard, seminars, awareness through various multiple organizations, doing everything to create awareness. And at the parallel level, our efforts were negated by the Lutyens media, the ecosystem, as well as the biased Bollywood, who were creating films on the Kashmir issue only to glorify terrorism, like Mission Kashmir, Haider, and dozens of other films. And we need a person like Vivek Agnihotri. I call him Sarfira, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, who believed in his work, who believed something he is going to do is true. And he made a film at his personal risk and personal on his family, he made this film. And thanks to our leadership like Surinder Kolji, Uppal Kolji, who were able to convince him for this thing, to create the awareness. And after 33 years, this thing has happened, and more awareness is being created. And then we thank our courageous and honorable Prime Minister Modi. On 5th August 2019, he eliminated and diluted Article 370 and 35A, which created more awareness about the Kashmir, and our issues came at the forefront. So this was the basic things I wanted to say, and I hand back over to Utpalji.
Ajay ji, thank you so much for your opening remarks. Ajay ji, how much time would you be having with us?
I'll be with you, but
we'll close at sharp 3
close.
p.m. From 45 to 50 minutes from now, we'll close. So kindly try and stay with us. Utpalji,
I'll stay with you.
Utpalji, the chronology of events, because whatever we are speaking now are the effects. 1990 is the effect. Genocide, ethnic cleansing is an effect. What were the causes? What is the historical backdrop? What is the chronology? What Kashmir, is it a desiccated land? Is it from the Rishi Kashyap? I mean, even the names, kind of authenticity has, various connotations. So take us through the entire chronology, right from that, the name of Kashmir, how it was derived, to today where we are. Letter of accession and all is all in between, but we have to get into the historical aspects.
Thank you very much. Kashmir is known as Kashyap Rishi's land. It is also called Sharda Bhumi. Kashmir is a celebrated land where Rishis were born, where Vedas were written, where Upanishads were written. And if we calculate roughly 30 to 40% of Indian literature, Bharati literature, and civilizational literature was written in Kashmir and around Kashmir. So Kashmir has a special kind of DNA where brilliant ideas have developed. And one of them is Kashmir Shaiva Darshan, and one of them in Buddhism is Sarvastavad. And whatever Buddhism you see in China and in Southeast Asia and also in Central Asia, it is the Buddha propagate the Buddha's philosophy. Anyway, you must have heard name of Lalta Ditya. Lalta Ditya Muktapida was one king who went up till borders of China, up till borders of Vietnam and south of India, and he it says it was the because of Lalta Ditya. Yeah. Muslim and most powerful army Lalta Ditya had built. And Kashmir was prosperous land. It is also known as Kesar Bhumi because Kashmir was the only place in Asia those days where the saffron was there. Kashmir was very prosperous. Agriculture was good, horticulture was good, everything, and art and architecture. Fantastic Marthan temple, fantastic Avantipur, and so nearly Kalhan says we had more than temple in Kashmir. But what happened was everything changed near the Iraq. And I may tell you that Kashmir is the only land, only place where Mahmud of Ghaznavi was Mahmud of Kashmir. That time was Queen of Kashmir sent the chief of the army staff with the army to protect the Tralochan, these Shahi dynasty called Anand Pal and Tralochan Pal. And it was because of that Mahmud Ghaznavi was so angry with Kashmir king, he tried to attack, but it was just there his luck. And I may add here that we had a women's army brigade. They were very good in war, ladies. So it's a long topic, but let me come to 10th, 12th century. Then Muslims started coming to Kashmir, and they didn't come as someone who could defeat Kashmiris because the Kashmir had a very well-organized army. But the only thing is, they came here and they started marrying their daughters with the Kashmiri army generals, with sons. And they started this kind of relation, and they started getting business, they started getting the influence, and finally controlling the government. And when they started controlling the government, first kings, the Qutubdin, the king, he was organizing Havan every day as a Muslim, but organizing Havan and having the tilak on forehead. But then he was advised Hamdani and Mir Muhammad Hamdani, who were known as Sufi priests, but because of their advice, genocide of Kashmiri Pandits started, and this this Muslim Sufi conditions, told the king, you are a Muslim, how can you rule like this, like a Hindu? You have to start Muslim rule in Kashmir. And the first thing was, now no Hindu temple will be constructed. No Hindu temple, if some Hindu temple is bigger than the mosque, temple has to go down. If somebody dies in Hindu family, he cannot weep or cry. So there were so many, and then the jizya and the tax and other things happened. And then the conversion started. And what we call is that the generational genocide of Kashmiri Pandits happened till 1819, till the last Afghan rule in 1819, when Maharaja Ranjit Singh sent Hula Singh and Hari Singh Nalwa with the help of a Kashmiri Pandit minister who went to advise Ranjit Singh and suggested him that I will help you, you conquer the Kashmir. And in 1819, Kashmir was conquered by six, and 1846 it came by name Amritsar. The Treaty of Kashmir was to do a founder of handed over kingdom of Jammu Kashmir and Gilgit, and that area later on became part of Jammu and Kashmir when Zorawar Singh conquered Ladakh and Gilgit and Baltistan. So this became Jammu and Kashmir under the Dogras. And I may tell you that there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation about the Dogra rulers. We can even go today and see how the SP College, Sri Pratap Singh College, Amar Singh College is in Srinagar. How the boulevard, the most beautiful boulevard road on the Dal Lake, it was done by the Dogras. And there is only one example in whole of history in the world where there were forcible schools for the Muslims. Maharaja, Dogra Maharaja asked the teachers to go to the homes, and this was known as Jabri schools. And so, but there is a section in Kashmir and in India who just don't want to listen logic. They don't want to listen to the true history. And as Mr. Vimal ji said just now, the turning point was when in 19 started agitating against the ruler Maharaja Hari Singh, and it was very, very unfortunate that Nehruji and Congress sided with the Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, and Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah was the most smart person who tried to make fool of these national leaders in Delhi, and he was trying to show them that I am with you, but in the heart of hearts was that he wanted to name of the party was Muslim Conference. And for 4 years, it was Muslim Conference, but it was then Kashmiri Pandit leaders, some Dogra leaders, and they told him, what are you doing? So he changed the stance and kept the name as National Conference. In 1947, that Kashmir should go to, Jammu and Kashmir should go to Pakistan. The British were explaining him that the wood, because at that time, this log, it was a big business, the forests. So it is going through Vatasta River, through Jahlim to Pakistan. You will lose all that money. It is better to join the Pakistan. But he was a patriot, as earlier said, that he never wanted but some 6 months it delayed, and finally Pakistan got convinced that Maharaja Hari Singh is not going to join Pakistan. And so when Maharaja Hari Singh requested the National Congress and its government in Delhi that they should help him because Pakistan has come, but at that time there was a treaty, there was an accession. Jammu and Kashmir became integral part of India, and it is the supreme sacrifice of Indian Army. The first Sikh battalion, 600, our great brave became martyred at the near the airport. And it's a long history what happened at that time. But I have interviewed for 2 hours former BJP Janata Sangh president Balraj Madok, and he told me that the Sheikh Abdullah, when the government was given to him, he took the government just on a plate, and his family was in Indore. They had no role. They were under the protection of Jawaharlal Nehru. And so Nehru, instead of thanking the Indian army and the Indian nation for giving support because of this Pakistani attack, the Sheikh Abdullah said, Kashmir ka ताज मैंने खाक में से उठाया है, हम हिंदुस्तान के साथ जाएं या पाकिस्तान के साथ जाएं वो दीगर सवाल है, हमने पहले आजादी ली थी. So Islamic independent state of Jammu and Kashmir was in his mind. And finally in 1953, Jawaharlal Nehru got convinced that he is deceiving me, and Sheikh Abdullah was arrested, and so his deputy Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad became, it was Mir Qasim. And again, after 20 years, Mir Qasim convinced Indira Gandhi that Sheikh Abdullah should come back. Sheikh Abdullah came back. And in the meantime, these anti-India and pro-Pakistan elements, Jamaat Islamia and Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, JKLF, they got encouraged. They started Pakistan started Jamaat Islamia. They sent young boys to Pakistan, kept trained, and the culmination was in 88, 89, when nearly 5 to 10,000 Kashmiri boys got training in POK and other parts of Pakistan, got 100 in Kashmir. And the first, so it was a challenge to Indian nation. It was a challenge to Hindu society that PSF was, but they were not given order to act on these terrorists. They were moving around in Indian Army or CRPF was a Janamami section, and the result was that million. We understand that the responsible are political leaders of that time. There are bureaucrats and there are political parties in Kashmir, Muslim majority political parties. All these are responsible for our ground. They are same way responsible. So we are fighting that those who did this act of genocide with us, they should be punished. And so today is also a very important day because the Delhi High Court, NIA Court, is listening about the hanging of Yasin Malik, and we wish he must be hanged as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Kaul. I will quickly bring in Mr. Kashki Akhun. Mr. Akhun, your opening remarks on, and you could probably add a few points from the monologues which were spelled out by
I
Mr.
think
Utpal Kaul.
there's some problem at your end, Amit ji. We can see your frozen picture.
Vakhluji,
We can see you back. Not sure whether you're able to hear us.
Are you able to hear us, Amit?
yeah, I'm all fine. I'm all fine.
Acha, okay. Yeah. Utpal ji has completed his presentation. You can proceed further.
Okay, Mr. Kashki Akhun, your remarks you can carry forward from where Mr. Utpal Kaulji left. Probably add a few points, and then we'll have the other speaker also join us.
So thank you very much, Amit ji. Thank you, Mr. Vimal Baklu Saab, Ashwini ji, Ajay Chaudhary ji. This important discussion which we are going here, this is basically we are facing this genocide problem since last few centuries, and recently it started in Kashmir when we were there since 1986. It was a trial in Anantnag, and the first trial was done on Kashmiri Pandits. And in 1990 was the full picture of that experiment which they have done. As you all know, thousands of Kashmiri Hindus' houses were ransacked. Temples were destroyed, burned, and Hindus throughout the Anantnag district, they were threatened, and they were threatened to leave the Kashmir. And at that very moment,